Okay, I think we're connected. YouTube tells me the quality of the stream is excellent, so hopefully that they're not lying and the connection will stay good. We'll be starting momentarily. Let's see a few people in the chat already. Let's see. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhasa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhasa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhasa. So continuing on with the overview of the different realms according to the Theravada cosmology, we're going to deal today with the higher Brahma realms. We covered the first level Brahmas last time. Just to recap, the Brahmas exist in 4 planes of existence. They're all classified as being part of the Rupa Bhumi, the realm of form, which has transcended sensuality altogether. And the 4 levels correspond to the 4 jhanas, in that the default consciousness of a Brahma god is parallel to the consciousness of a human being in jhana. It's not exactly the same, but it's equivalent and has many of the characteristics. So we can analyze the different Brahma realms according to the jhanas. We saw that the first jhana has, amongst its factors, it has vitakka and vichara, which are application and sustaining of mental objects. Applied and sustained thought is a common translation. This is the mental energy that in meditation is used to grasp and hold the object of meditation. But in ordinary daily consciousness, it's the mental energy behind cognitive thought and speech. So the first level Brahmas still have this faculty. So they're able to talk and discourse, and it is only the first level Brahmas for which we have names of individuals. For example, there are several Brahmas named Baka, Sunana Kamara, and so forth. And it's only the first level Brahmas which we have any stories about them interacting, and either very often with the Buddha. Either the Buddha goes to the Brahma realm and discusses with them, or they come down to earth to pay the respects to the Buddha. The in the progression of the jhanas, vitakka and vichara are transcended and are not present in second, third, and fourth jhana. So these higher Brahmas, we don't have any individuals named, and we don't really have any stories about them. They don't really do anything. They're just enjoying the bliss of their jhanic consciousness for eons of time. So let's go through these 3 higher Brahma realms. The second Brahma realm is called Abhassara, which means the luminous ones. It's a quality of all the Brahmas that their bodies are luminous. The second Brahma realm, equivalent to second jhana, is primarily marked by piti, or jhanic rapture, joy, the upsurging energy. Now there is one partial exception to the rule I stated previously, that there are no stories about Brahma gods in these higher levels. We do have the Aganya Sutta, which describes um, the origin of the earth and the origin of mankind. And it said that in the formation of this level of existence, the earth was in the early stage was um, covered in ocean, and it was not, sun and moon were not manifest. It doesn't say the Pali is quite explicit. It does not use the verb that would indicate that sun and moon did not exist. It says they were not manifest. So one way of interpreting this would be the heavy dark clouds. And beings from the Abhassara Brahma realm came down to the earth to investigate out of curiosity, and some of them tasted the foam of the sea, which was at that time was said to be a nutritious foam, oja, and this caused them to take on a coarser physical form, and they fell to earth, and through several complex stages of devolution, they became the humans we know now. Now, one thing to note about this story is that the Brahmas, the Abhassara Brahmas that came to earth, even by descending to this level, they'd already fallen from their pristine state as Abhassara Brahmas, even though it said that they moved through the air and were self-luminous, feeding on bliss, which is characteristic of Brahmas. The fact that they were tasting the foam is already something that would not be done by a pure Abhassara Brahma. For one thing, they have no sense of taste. They only have all the Brahmas only have the senses of sight and hearing. For another thing, that would imply a kind of sensual desire. So they'd already fallen from their high state of Brahma gods by the time they arrived at Earth. So technically, this isn't really a story about Abhassara Brahmas. They'd already fallen from that position. But this is the only exception we have of any kind of hearing about the actions of individual Brahmas of these higher levels. The third level Brahmas are called the Subhakinna Brahmas, and they are the equivalent to third jhana. So piti is not evident for them. Instead, they experience sukha, or bliss, kind of peaceful oceanic bliss. There's a clue in the description of the Brahma gods as to the difference between piti and sukha. When the texts talk about the luminosity of the Brahma gods, the Abhassara Brahmas of the second level, it's said that their radiance flickers like a torch, but the radiance of the Subhakinna Brahmas is brilliant and steady like that of the full moon. Sukha is calmer than piti. It's a higher state. It's a progression from piti. The fourth and highest level of the Brahmas are the Vehapphala Brahmas, or the Brahmas of the abundant fruit, would be a translation. The Brahmas of this level, equivalent to fourth jhana, are marked by equanimity. And this is the highest level of the Brahma gods. These various Brahma gods, they also have a role to play in the broader cosmology of the destruction of a world at the end of a cycle. Uh, the world system is destroyed in one of three ways: by most often by fire, and at rarer intervals by water, and then by wind is the most rare form of destruction. And there's a pattern to this. I won't try and get into at the moment. The point I want to make is that the different Brahma levels, the different levels of destruction reach up to different Brahma worlds. The destruction by fire reaches as high as the first Brahma world. So everything is burned up of the human world and the Deva worlds, and also first Brahma, all destroyed by fire. And the higher Brahma worlds are not touched. The destruction by water also reaches as high as second Brahma world, and the destruction by wind destroys the third Brahma world as well. One old text draws the analogy from these levels of destruction with the states of jhana, of what is transcended. Fire is like burning in the mind is like thought, so that goes as high as first Brahma. Um, Water is like a piti, because it's nourishing and flows and so on. So that destroys second Brahma world. And wind is like the breath, which only reaches as high as third jhana. It said it being in fourth Brahma doesn't actually breathe. Now, whether that's literally true or not, or it just means that the breath is not evident, we don't need to determine now. There's also regarding these levels of destruction, there's also a bit of a paradox or a problem in that the fourth Brahma level escapes all these destructions. So in one commentary, there's a discussion of this point. It said that some object to this because it seems to violate the law of impermanence, but the reply to this is that the fourth Brahma world should not be considered as a unitary realm. Each Brahma lives alone in his own place, and they are subject to impermanence. They come and go. They have a very long lifespan measured in hundreds of kappas, but when it's finished, they also pass away. So nothing in the Buddhist cosmos is permanent or immortal. Another description of the Brahma worlds says that the most beautiful sight in the universe is Mahabrahma sitting in his palace, surrounded by his retinue. It's the most beautiful sight in the world. The most beautiful sound in the world is the cry of the Abhassara Brahmas, second level, who cry out, Aho Sukho, oh the bliss, in their great happiness. And the third level Brahmas, the Subhakinna Brahmas who dwell in Sukha or bliss, is said to be the greatest happiness experienced anywhere in the universe. So that leaves there's some other classes of beings that are also they're not technically Brahmas, but they're included within the Rupa Bhumi, and we'll deal with them next time. That is the realm of the insentient beings and the realm of the pure abodes, the Sudavasa, where Anagamis go when they die. Okay, so I think that covers the higher Brahmas, and I'll leave that and go to the chat and see what questions we have. I have heard that all things arise from the deathless and cease into the deathless, and samsara is merely a simulation therein. How do you feel about this? I don't know where that quote comes from. I have a bit of a problem with it, in that to say that all things arise from the deathless, because nibbana is neither cause nor effect. It's outside the realm of cause and effect. So to say that things arise from the deathless would make the nibbana somehow like a first cause. And I think that's not really correct. That sounds actually more Upanishadic than Buddhist. Last time you spoke of the Buddha instructing a Brahma to increase the density of his body upon descending to a lower level. Did the Abhassara Brahmas perhaps emanate this way to taste the oja? Possibly. I've not seen that suggested before, but it makes a certain amount of sense. I have seen in Thailand some Sakyants tattoos paying homage to Brahma gods. Is Sakyants a legitimate Buddhist ritual practice, or is considered one of the fetters of superstition? Generally, the Buddhist teaching is not to worship Brahmas. It's not really prohibited, but it's not considered right or worthy. There's one sutta that kind of ridicules a woman who is making offerings to Brahma. But I know that in Thailand, I've seen also statues to Brahmas, and people also have village shrines to local devas. So there is a folk Buddhism practice. It's very common. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, but it's not the highest practice. It's not pure Buddhism. Ajahn, what would you say is the best way to know if a jhana is real or not? Is a real jhana just imaginary, created from the mind? Well, all jhanas are created by the mind. Well, let's keep that straight. So there's no difference between imaginary and not imaginary. But to diagnose whether it's actually jhana or not it's not a hard and fast thing. I think the best way to look at it is that the jhanas are just a progression of deeper and deeper samadhi, and where the boundary line is a matter of definition. It's not really clear. But if it's a real jhana, then if you're actually in jhana, it would mean, first of all, that the mind has very great stability. That's what samadhi means. So that it's not wandering. It's the object. You're locked onto the object. The mind is filled with the object, and there should be a great feeling of peace and clarity. Next one, curious parallel between Abhassara Brahmas crying, "Oh the bliss," and Seraphim continually singing, "Holy, holy, holy." Yes, yeah, that is very good observation. And there is a very strong parallel. Following up on Sakyant, are the ones that pay homage to Lord Buddha, are they legitimate practice, or that also not pure Buddhism? Again, there's no harm to it. I I don't think there's anything really wrong with it, but it's not really the highest practice. The highest practice is entirely internal. It's not uh, marked by these external actions like tattoos. If a Buddha absolutely requires the prediction of Buddhahood from another Buddha, how can the first Buddha come into existence? Well, samsara is beginningless, so there's no first Buddha. There's no first Buddha, no last Buddha. However many Buddhas back you go, there'll always be a previous Buddha. Time is considered to be endless in both directions. I read the Buddha said all things converge on feelings. If so, what is the implication that we stop senseless karma and feelings then? Generally, this is a question that relates to dependent origination, paticca samuppada, and is generally considered that the optimum point for practice is after feelings comes craving. And if you have a conscious knowing of the feeling and don't let it turn into craving, that's a powerful practice. You're essentially breaking the dependent origination at that point. The feelings are classed as resultant, which means we can't do anything about it. They just come to us based on causes and conditions, which include our own conditions from karma and so on. But then craving has a volitional aspect. So we can break the chain there between feeling and craving. So feeling is very important, and mindfulness of feeling is a very important practice. Of the three feelings, if you're not mindful of pleasant feeling properly, then that leads into craving. If you're not mindful of unpleasant feeling, that leads to aversion. And if you're not aware of neutral feeling, that leads into ignorance. Could you give a talk on the Walama Sutta, please? I'll take that under advisement. That might be a good one. Ajahn, can you please give an overview of how to do Devanusati meditation? I have done that. If you go on our website, arrowriver.ca, and look at the Dhamma talks, and click on sort by topics, and under meditation, you'll find a couple of guided meditations on Devanusati. Okay, so that is there any more questions? I can stay on for a few more minutes. We'll see if there's any. If there's no more questions, we'll break it off now. But here's a question: does a Bhuma Deva go hungry? If humans do not make offerings, how's the Bhuma Deva sustain itself? Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't recall any mention of Bhuma Devas going hungry. They are devas, so they're I don't think that they really depend on offerings. Their food is can be karmically generated, like for the higher devas. They don't really have to toil to acquire food. What do you, okay, some Dustin wants to clarify his question. What do you think of samsara being a simulation? Yeah, it's possibility of defining it that way. The problem I have with talking about it as a simulation is the simulation has to implies it is running on some kind of a matrix of some kind. so that there would have to be like a higher level of reality that's generating the simulation. And I don't, that seems to me to be an unnecessary complication. Can you repeat the three feelings if you aren't aware? Thank you. Okay. Three feelings are sukha, dukkha, and asukham dukkam. That is pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. And pleasant feeling, if one is not mindful of it, can lead to craving. Unpleasant feeling leads to aversion, and the neutral feeling leads to ignorance. How do we hone this in non-feelings practice? Um, well, it's a form. It's a form or a part of vipassana, of being aware of your mental reaction to things, just being aware of how the feelings arise, and this includes a neutral feeling. If you're which is probably the bulk of our feeling is just neutral. We're not strongly moved one way or the other, but that's also so it's a kind of a non-feeling, but uh, being unaware of it, it leads to the feeling of boredom and then to ignorance. Can you expand on ending delusion? It feels delusion. Yeah, if we're not if we're aware of our neutral feeling, then it's experienced as peaceful. We just feel peaceful. But if we're unaware of it, then we feel dull and bored, and this is a root of ignorance. The Buddha recalls certain things like name, clan, and food. What's the significance for us of these specific recollections? Now, the questioner is referring to the Buddha remembering his past lives. And it's usually stated in a formula like, I remember there, such was my name, such was my clan, such was my pleasure, such was my pain, such was my food. I think it's just a general way of describing in a short formula his previous life. Can you speak to how we should reflect on having of these realms for our practice? Well, particularly the topic, today's topic about the Brahma worlds, is another way into understanding the jhanas and uh, helping to attune the mind to those states. The Buddha can make predictions of Buddhahood for more than one person in his lifetime, right? Because Shakyamuni did not give a prophecy for anyone, and it seems that Maitreya received it from an unnamed Buddha. Um, Possibly. It's also possible the Buddha did make prediction, but it hasn't come down to us. We have no way of knowing. So I think I'll take my leave now, and as I said, next week we'll deal with the remaining corners of the Rupa Bhumi, and then we just have the Arupa Bhumi to